Welcome to Freedom to Fuel, the talk show that will energize how you think about your utilities. Brought to you by Huntsville Utilities and the American Public Gas Association. Coming to you this week from the Harborside Ballroom of the Hyatt Regency in Savannah, Georgia, I'm Todd Long with the Huntsville Utilities Orchestra, introducing your host, the Colonel, John Olszewski.
Here we are today. So, Jim and James, and you can take your turns, but explain to what your company does.
Well, I'll kick off. We have been around for just under 3 decades, and really we started as a training and education company in the industry, energy industry. We morphed into more focusing on OQs after the OQ rule about 18 years ago. And as an LMS company, learning management system company, really we have a couple focuses. One is OQ, operative qualifications here in the United States. Now, when you think of global, though, we have a certification where somebody may need to be certified to use a product or a solution, and that goes beyond political boundaries. So we're right now in Africa, the United Kingdom, Eastern, Western Europe, Asia, Malaysia. Our company is. We're supporting customers in the marketplace.
It's something to be proud of. You're international.
Wow. Did I miss anything as a high level?
Probably our competing podcast. You know, a lot of people know us about that. But, I mean, other than that, you hit most of it.
Well, I was going to ask you about it's not competing. You are number one.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. And you're number one in this space, but Ups, Go, and Freedom to Fuel are just getting on that coattail of yours and just keep on going.
I don't know about that.
I think we all ride each other's strengths is what
Collective
we do.
coattail.
Well, what those two great Americans that were just here said, and I know you will go agree, we have to tell our story.
We do. We absolutely do.
And that's what we're combating, because we got to tell our story of the natural gas world and can't get caught up into what's going on in the world. We have to tell our story, because we don't tell our story, we're going to continue going the way that we don't want it to go.
Yeah. You know, Colonel, I was just going to mention, he kind of hit the big elements that we do as a company, which is important, right? But my title's culture, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a little different.
Oh, no.
So I think you're seeing a little of it today, what we do too. And that's thought leadership and getting out there, getting plugged in with our industry, working on committees and boards and sitting at the table and speaking and doing all that. The podcasts are just small examples when you add it all up that really we're getting out there, we're trying to serve this industry and create a voice, create an avenue, create a platform for really anybody who needs it. You know,
amen.
Us,
no, absolutely.
Yeah. And I got to say this because I got to thank you for this. When I was on your podcast, I couldn't. We talked for a long time. We're almost an hour.
We did.
And you just did a clip in there on culture.
You had no clue you said that.
No clue.
Did you?
But what was so cool about it was it wasn't even staged.
No.
And you guys, I'm talking about training. I'm talking about leadership training.
Amen.
I'm talking about I spent 4 years of my 27 in school that was mostly about leadership training. And I argue that in our space sometimes in the world of the civilian world, one day they wake up and they're the leader. And then you want to go, where's this training?
Right.
So I thank you for that because I can't wait to see it because I really thought.
That was a sneak peek. It just worked out. It's like somebody knew.
Here we
Someone
are.
in marketing.
Somebody in marketing. So, okay. So you guys know what my theme is. My theme is Freedom to Fuel.
Yep.
And everybody gets to talk a little bit about it, but we were veterans. And on this last one, I had Ted here, and we're a veteran. And what's come up yesterday was somebody talked about freedom of choice. Okay. And I really, really, really liked it. But what I'm intrigued by, and Ted and his brother Joe took a different way on it. I would argue that I was about don't shove electricity, don't tell me what you want me to use, let me choose it. They actually said, they even went another step and said, if the world had to go electric and it could do everything from solar to, and everything in the world was that way, we almost would be okay, but it's never going to happen. You got to have them all in the game. And I was really taking, did I say it right?
No, I think so, yeah.
So anyway, what is your thoughts on Freedom to Fuel?
You want to go first?
I'll go first. I really think that it's very important to have that choice because, okay, let's break it down. I lived in Minnesota for 20 years. And having a natural gas furnace in Minnesota for 20 years was either life or death.
Yep.
So every winter, we did,
And I live in Texas, and the air conditioner sometimes is life or death.
Well, it is. No, I live in West Palm Beach, Florida now. And that air conditioner is something that now we rely on that. It's not life or death. It's really a lot of comfort and et cetera. But up north, though, if we don't have a natural gas furnace, if you try to rely on baseboard electric heat, it's not going to work.
No.
It will not keep up.
Yep.
I mean, our natural gas furnaces were running all the time, just trying to keep up. Electric baseboard wouldn't. Now, if we lived out in Florida and in the winter months when it gets down to a cold 58 degrees, little electric baseboard heat might be just fine. And or solar would be good too. So again, maybe it's geographic, maybe it's what your personal taste is or whatever. But I think everybody needs to, use that what's right for them and in their area and geography. If I lived out, west where there might be some large rivers, hydropower, I'm all for it. That's a good thing, but there's got to be balances between everything. It's almost like a 401k. If you do studies on energy and energy usage,
say that word right
I
now.
know that's a bad word, right? Well, it's not a bad word, but it's struggling right now. But if you use things that are to the best of your ability to have a portfolio, I think it works well.
I do. So what do you think, sir?
So I'm going to take a different angle on it.
I'm okay with that.
So everybody knows. I mean, I have a platform, so everybody knows where I stand. I want us to be in the conversation. That is my thing. And so I'm newer to the industry, right? So I'll put it this way: 7 years ago, you would have been messaging me, right? Because I wasn't in this bubble. I wasn't in the echo chamber. So now being in it, I tend to look at what I'm impressed by is I just wanted to know that we were at work on it, right? I trust you. I trust you. I trust you, right? I trust that we have people at the table, and now I've seen it, right? Like I believe that there's people there fighting for our vested interests in this discussion, and there are people that sit beside us every day, and that makes me feel really good. Whereas before, I didn't have that peace of mind. The way it worked was a little bit of a black box for me. And now being in here and being involved and sitting on committees and sitting on boards and things like that,
right.
I know that we have a seat at the table, and I know that people are fighting every single day, and I think that's the right term, for a seat at that table to be in that discussion. And I feel good about that.
How do you top that, Todd?
You don't, I think. I think that encapsulates exactly the kind of things we've been talking about.
Well, I also wanted to bring up something else.
Uh-oh.
Now the real stuff.
Well, it's back. Really, it was back to your company again because part of this podcast is about telling your story and then talking about Freedom to Fuel as well. Weren't you guys like 40, 50 people a little while ago, and now how big are you?
The size of the company?
Yeah.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, right before the pandemic started, we were right about 50 people. And over that stretch, which we kind of said over 31 months, we doubled in size during a pandemic. So when we talk culture is important,
Absolutely.
You can imagine, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can imagine why we had to pivot and really take a look at that, because we were in the middle of everything, right? I had never managed through a pandemic myself.
No one. Who has, though?
Right, but I'm saying, I haven't even managed people, just
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, let's be an officer or a VP or any form of leadership. Having to lead through that was daunting, and as we saw that, plus the explosive growth, it was a full-time job. That's what ended up happening.
Well, I mean,
we had to move culture up a level.
You had to, because the whole world has been complaining since COVID. How many stories did you hear? You can't get anybody. You got to raise it to $15. You got to do this. You got to this. And I'm talking to a company called Energy Worldnet, EWN, that grew from 50-something to 100-something during a pandemic.
How did we do it?
Culture.
I mean, it really is. Good point. And it wasn't, and I'm not saying that to, I am beating the drum, but
we need to.
I want people to realize that there is something you can do. And the thing is I actually said it on the podcast, I'll twist it and put it in our own words. You can do culture or culture's doing you. Either way,
Yeah.
like that's the truth. It's there. You can be a part of it. You can get involved. You can get passionate. You can lean in where you're at, or you can not and complain and walk around in it.
Well,
but
you
either
know
way,
what's powerful about what you're doing is the fact it's 2 years in a row, Memphis and here, you've got up as Energy Worldnet and talked to this operations counselor about culture. And in my in Minnesota, because of you, now I'm giving you credit, so just take it.
I like it. Let's go.
Because of you, and I heard the word culture from you, I went back to Huntsville, and Tangela Johnson spoke at Minneapolis, and what was her discussion all over? Culture.
Yep.
And because here's the deal, and I like this discussion.
I do too.
The culture world, okay.
I usually have to sit around. Let's just be
We're
honest.
in Minneapolis. I mean,
Sometimes, Colonel, I have to sit and listen to LNG and CNG.
Well-
and he geeks out. Like, it's very seldom that we can. So
well, the
please,
culture
go
piece is
ahead.
important because
Well, I believe in it. I live it every day because it's us
Absolutely.
and shining in the organizations and families and communities.
Absolutely.
And all those good things that we're involved with. Church, everything has culture.
Absolutely.
And it is what we bring to the table and to the seat. But go ahead, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Continue on.
I was just going to say, one thing I told our leadership was, I want to create a place where we don't have to take a hat off and on when we go between one place or another, right?
Right.
Like, I don't want you to go, okay, my family's important. Okay, now the company's important. Oh, here the company's on the phone. Okay,
Yeah.
just if our values are what we believe and we hire right, then you shouldn't have to put a hat on and off. You should just be able to be a quality person.
Well, that's mind blowing though for me.
I was at the in Memphis.
Yep.
In the audience when the presentation about culture, and there was something that it resonated with me because it is something I had heard myself say many times. And when Cortez got to the New World, he burned his ships. As a result, his men were well motivated from the hunt for Red October. I used to say that I worked in television for a long time. And for a while, I was a creative services and marketing director at a TV at an NBC affiliate. And part of our job was to make the commercials that were going to be on the programming log the next day. And I would go to my producers and I would say, now, is this spot going to be ready tomorrow? Well, I'm going to try for that. And I would go and put it on the programming log to run the next day. And then that was the thing I would always tell them, hey, I just burned the ship.
You better be ready.
And they knew that meant I put the spot on the log. I ain't going home till this spot is done.
Right.
And when that showed, because you guys put a graphic up there that said when Cortez got to the New World. Yeah. But of course, when I would say it to them, it would be like, when I got to the New World,
it's funny.
Cortez burned his ships.
Yeah.
As a result,
that's better.
His men
That's
were
way
highly
better than I
motivated.
get it. Yeah. It's a great story. It's a great visual, but it's a hard thing to quantify sometimes with people because everybody wants to know what that moment is that your culture changed. And I'm like, dude, some of the stuff we did 24 months ago could have changed that. Like, I really can't. And it's so different for every single person, right? Like, the moment for me was pretty much when I got there and knew my livelihood was in the throes of this culture, right? And so I had multiple people come up to me after this one. You were over there after Memphis and say, how do I get started? I can't do anything. I'm not, one person. And I'm like, I was one person 6 years ago. Right? This story is our story. I'm telling it, but I'm telling you that I was that one person that was the crazy shirtless guy telling everybody, come on, trust me, follow me, right? And then once we got that one, and then we got the next one, and then those people leaned, and they leaned in where they could. Yeah. Right? We got there. So is there one Cortez moment? That's a hard thing for me to answer, So when I talk about it, I talk more about it's probably different for everybody you ask.
Absolutely. Well,
and the thing I'm a firm believer in, and it took me 20 years of working to learn this. You don't quit a job unless the culture's bad. And
I've worked, you don't quit a company, you quit people.
Exactly, yeah.
Or a boss.
I've worked for Huntsville Utilities and for the Colonel now for 5 years. And this happened last week. I had a headhunter call me and say, hey,
big industrial firm. Because you know what kind of industry there is in North Alabama, and they were looking for a director of marketing, and somehow I ended up on their radar. And they said, "Hey, let's talk." And I was like, I'm good.
So
You go
ahead.
It's hard when we're all podcasters.
You're good though.
I'll just jump in. I was just going to say that what's following the Great Resignation, right? The Great Regret.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people that are walking and getting to that new place and looking around and going, yeah, they did have Topo Chico in the break room.
Well,
but they have no leadership, or they don't.
Well, that's a true story. A lot of people are finding that.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's also involved in a culture mentality and positive culture of an organization, is to help people understand and see all the great and wonderful things that we're doing within the organization. Because a lot of these things are organic and we're doing them. People may not just be recognizing that they're happening. So it's important that we do that.
Absolutely. You good?
Hang on.
I know.
I just can't believe we got on here and talked about culture.
Culture. I mean, I want an LNG CNG pipeline.
No,
Are y'all watching this?
Here's a
pipeline.
Here's
Freedom
the deal.
of fuel.
I'm impressed with the culture terminology, and I love what you're doing in it, and I love what Tangela's doing in back in our area. I'm impressed with the whole process. So here's the deal. Thank you guys for being on the show today.
Hang on.
Oh, here you go again. This is round two of
this needs to be a recurring segment called Todd's Final Two Questions, because I had two other questions I wanted to
You
ask.
did this to me
Oh,
on the
I like
last show.
this. I like
The
it.
first one is
Terrified.
what kind of success? How long have you been doing the podcast now? I mean, how many?
2.5
2.5
years.
years.
2.5 years. And obviously, you know, those of us in the industry have seen the success of it. Starting from what your goals were to accomplish when you started it, what's that? How have you measured the success of the podcast?
Well, okay.
Have you ever built a train while you were? Built the track and the train
While it's moving?
you were moving.
Yeah.
Very akin to that.
Yeah.
Right. No, we did. We came together right before. Right as the pandemic started. We've told this story over and over, but we needed a way for
An outlet
He
for both
needed
of us.
a way.
I did.
Okay. He was traveling, 30 times a year, more than that,
And the world shut down. I
And
was in the corner, shivering, shaking.
and that meant he was going to talk to me for the next 2.5 years, right? Which is not sustainable.
No.
Okay. So
Nobody.
no, but once we got moving, I'll say this: the show changed for us. We were trying to get anybody and everybody on. You were on. No, I'm just kidding. Yours is way later, Kurt. You know that. But at the beginning, really, we didn't know what we were doing, so we were trying to help out our friends and get them on and talk about what they were doing and all of that. And then the show.
Wait, we
there
had
was a
scripts. Do you
moment-
remember the
Oh,
scripts? We had scripts, and I would read it. Welcome
Like Low Robot.
to...
We tried that on our
Oh,
show
goodness.
for a season, and then said we're not
And then
doing
my
it like this.
outros, I had 14-minute outros. Thank you for joining us on
Comment,
Coffee.
like, subscribe, go
Go to
like the
LinkedIn,
picture of
go
my
to this,
granddaughter on
go to
Facebook.
there.
Like, there
Send
was-
me a note, send us a note. It's nice to see you. Oh, before we go, I just want to say thank you again.
So there was a day, and this was a Cortez moment, right? There was a day where Jimmy and I sat down, and it was like, okay, are we doing this for reals?
Yeah.
Because if we're doing this for real, then we're gonna have to bring the quality up. We're gonna have to make it sustainable because I can't do my job and do this job. Like it's really hard, and it needs to serve a purpose. Right? What's our purpose?
Yeah.
And so we went back to the drawing board, and we've said it. We just said it in that session. If we can impact somebody, it doesn't matter. One person, right? That's
In a
good.
positive way.
That's
we've
good
done our
enough
job.
for us.
Yeah.
But then we began to shape our content and start doing stuff that we really wanted to do.
Yep.
And I'm not saying we didn't want to do the first stuff. We just didn't know what we wanted to do. When we began to make, like we did a segment on 7 habits, and I can't tell you how many people reached out to us and was just like, you don't know how I needed this
Yeah.
at this moment.
Yeah.
And it changed what we wanted to deliver because I thought we just had to deliver what was in the space. And when we gave ourselves permission to start talking about what we
We
needed
can bring
to be
innovation to the space.
when we did the mental health series, I needed it. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, I'll be honest, but the amount of people that reached out and were like, I can't believe we're talking about this right now. Somebody just said it about our session.
Yeah.
How does the reception of this session at other places? And I said, it's
That's
coming
why
around.
we were going to have you on.
It's coming around, right?
Yep.
How is it talking to a bunch of grown men about crying? And I was like, it helps if you cry.
Absolutely.
Right?
What's your second question?
The second question is short answer. Don't worry. Right before we started
I'm
shooting
exhausted.
Somebody.
Look, production team is loving it though. They're just
Amanda and I went on
content.
the website, on the Jim and James website, and there's the little button that says "Be Our Guest."
Yes.
And so we clicked on it, and we wrote, because like she and I host a show where we teach
Where did it go?
the general public to help them be more efficient with their utilities, to educate them about how utilities work, to kind of pull back the curtain. And it's won awards and everything. And so we put ourselves in for you guys to consider as being a guest on the show.
And we didn't respond
Well,
When did you do this?
just now.
Like 30 minutes.
Oh,
Okay. All right. All
You
right.
don't know already?
Give us some grace.
Oh, that's what that
Panicked.
text
No,
was.
we finished setting everything up, and we let him know, and
We
he had to go
love
into the
it.
bathroom and get the guest. And so I was like, oh, well, we're going to do
All right,
this.
so it is a little new. I can see why we haven't got that message yet.
So you got any more questions?
That's it. I just had to.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting a text. Oh, we got it.
Oh, sure enough. Tell him we're on it.
Ding.
We got
All right. You got the reply.
Okay, we're good.
Well, I'm
This
not
is
sure
the most
two
fun I've
award
had.
winnings can make it on the same show. You know?
We're tapped out.
All right. So, thank you guys. I mean, you guys are freaking awesome. I love you. And,
You all are awesome.
And I can't forget Amanda out there.
No,
And
it's like
Amanda
that.
is the
Okay,
one who
man.
checks you out for me. I learned
Who
that
does all the
today.
post-production?
But
Post-production?
Both of us, yeah.
all
Both of us
production.
do,
But
yeah.
appreciate you guys. And
Oh, we
appreciate
you.
you.
And thank you for being a part of the show and APGA.
Freedom to Fuel is produced by Huntsville Utilities in cooperation with the American Public Gas Association. The views expressed by the host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of HU or the APGA. Our audiovisual engineer is Amanda Tomczyk-Kemp with additional production elements provided by Jeffrey Long. If you have a comment or question, post it in the comments below. And remember, the freedom to fuel is only natural.